Today's lesson is soaking up some history. Hello, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we are going to talk about hot springs. This is a subject that people in Taiwan are very familiar with. There are hot springs resorts all over Taiwan. But did you know there are hot spring resorts all over the world?
That's right. And Taiwan has some of the best hot springs in the world, I would say. But if you're looking to soak in a hot spring while you're on holiday somewhere else in the world, then you can have a lot of places to choose from because there are actually hot springs everywhere. A lot of them are old. They have old facilities. Some of them are quite new. So there's really a wide range of choices that you can choose from.
Indeed. So, of course, we all know about the hot springs here in Taiwan and the onsen, or hot springs, over in Japan. But today we're going to be talking about some hot springs in other parts of the world. Specifically today, we'll be talking about the ones in the UK, in the city of Bath. And we'll also be talking about some hot springs in Turkey. So without further delay, let's get into our lesson. Let's listen to the first part, and then we'll come back to discuss it.
Soaking up some history. Hot springs are located on all the continents, and people have been bathing in them for millennia. Today, many ancient hot springs have become popular tourist spots, places that offer soothing waters and a chance to look back in history.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 millennium， 这个字是名词，指1000年。我们可以说 The church was built more than a millennium ago. 这间教堂是在1000年之前建造的。而这个字的复数形是 millennia, M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A, millennia。课文中就是用复数用法。例如 Over many millennia, the earth has seen countless environmental changes take place. 经过数千年，地球上发生了无数的环境变迁。接着我们看到形容词 soothing， 指抚慰的、令人舒缓的或是镇静的。例如 Jade likes to listen to soothing music before she goes to bed. Jade 睡前喜欢听舒缓的音乐。或是After a long day of work, Monica takes a soothing bath. 工作忙了一整天之后 Monica 会洗个舒服的澡。
And welcome back to our lesson for today, which is titled Soaking Up Some History. So we're talking about hot springs around the world, which is why we mentioned the word soak or to soak up. But here there is also a play on words because to soak up actually means to spend time experiencing or understanding or enjoying something. So you can soak up the sun when you're on the beach, which means to be on the beach and to enjoy the sun. But to soak also means to stay for quite a long time in a bath or in water. So here we have soaking up some history, which is the history behind some of these hot springs around the world. And you can also soak in these hot springs. So here we have a little play on words.
Indeed, it's a clever play on words. Our writers are certainly very talented here. So let's move on now to the first paragraph here. It says, hot springs are located on all the continents, and people have been bathing in them for millennia. So, of course, a continent is a large mass of land. Asia, Africa, North and South America, those are all continents. So, yes, hot springs are all over the world, and people have been enjoying them or soaking in them or bathing in them for millennia. Millennia just means thousands of years.
That's right. So Perhaps in the past, these hot springs were kept a secret. Nobody really knew about them. Only locals were soaking in them. But things have changed. Today, many ancient hot springs have become popular tourist spots, places that offer soothing waters and a chance to look back in history. So today, many people who go on holiday or who go on vacation may choose a place that offers nice hot springs so that when they go there, they can do other things aside from sightseeing and going to restaurants. They can also enjoy some ancient hot springs. So these hot springs are quite old. And because of their history and how old they are, they have become popular tourist spots.
And of course, as you know, you should not soak in a hot spring for a very long time. It should be relatively short, so you can do lots of other things while you're on tour, but then spend a little bit of time at a hot spring resort and soak up the water or soak in the water, take a bath in the water. And in this particular case, we're describing those waters in hot springs as being soothing. And if something's soothing, it is pleasant and it makes you relax and you really enjoy it. You might know someone who has a very soothing voice, for example. When you talk to that person, you feel very, very relaxed.
That's right. Some people like to soak in hot springs because they say that it relaxes. Hot springs can relax their muscles or wash away the tension or the stress that they have accumulated from work, from study. So it's just a very soothing, relaxing experience to soak in a hot spring. But as Roger said, you shouldn't soak in one for a long time. They say maximum 10, 15 minutes, and after that, you should really get out and take a break.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part.
In the UK, the city of Bath stands out for its hot springs. It was founded in the 1st century by the Romans, who built a bathing complex around its thermal springs. In the 18th century, several notable buildings were added to Bath. Among them is the Royal Crescent, a 150-meter-long row of houses built in a crescent shape. These days it boasts a luxury hotel, where visitors can relax in thermal baths surrounded by gorgeous Georgian architecture.
第二部分我们看到单字 notable， 这个字是形容词，指著名的或是显著的。例如 New York is the site of several notable museums. 纽约有一些著名的博物馆。或是 Several notable authors appeared at the book fair. 好几位知名作家现身书展。另外，这个字也能当作名词，意思是名人或是显要人物。举例来说 There are many notables in the ceremony. 这个典礼上有很多名人。或是 Many notables attended the press conference. 许多显要人物参加了记者会。再来，我们看到形容词 gorgeous， 指华丽的、吸引人的或是美丽动人的。像是 The hotel room has a gorgeous view of the beach. 这间饭店房间有极美丽的海滩景观。或是 The hikers retreated to a gorgeous sunset. 登山客得以欣赏绚丽的夕阳。
So continuing our talk about hot springs, we're going to start in the UK. In the UK, the city of Bath stands out for its hot springs. So the UK has many cities, but one particular city, which is called Bath, stands out for its hot springs. To stand out means to be better or to be more important than others for a particular reason or for a particular thing. So Bath stands out compared to other cities because it has these hot springs, which other cities in the UK don't have, or they have very few of them, or they're not as good. So Bath stands out. Everybody knows about the city because of its hot springs. I could also say Taiwan stands out for its delicious night market snacks. So compared to other countries, other places, Taiwan is special because it has all of these wonderful snacks that are offered at the night markets.
Indeed, and I should also mention that Bath is the American pronunciation. If you're talking to someone from England, they're likely to say Bath, the city of Bath. And again, it stands out for its hot springs. It is renowned for that. It is famous for its hot springs. And it was founded in the 1st century by the Romans, who built a bathing complex around its thermal springs. So, of course, as you know, the southern part of Great Britain and England there was controlled by the Romans for a long time. So the Romans built lots of stuff in England, and so Bath was founded during Roman times. And the Romans were there and they discovered these hot springs, so they built this bathing complex around the thermal springs there. So a complex just means a series of buildings, all part of a facility. You might work in a factory someplace down in, say, Taichung or Tainan or something. You will have a factory complex. You'll have different buildings, maybe the actual factory and then another building and then maybe an administration building. Those would all be part of the complex.
Yes, and the word thermal here, it means that something is related to or caused by heat. So a thermal spring is heated water that flows from under the ground.
Thermal springs, they were nice and warm, so it would be a good place to go in the winter. And in the 18th century, which would be the 1700s, several notable buildings were added to Bath. So yes, they added to the complex, they built more buildings, and these buildings were notable, which means they're significant, they are interesting, and you should know about them.
Yes, and among these notable buildings is the Royal Crescent, a 150-meter-long row of houses built in a crescent shape. So something that is shaped like a crescent is curved, and it's kind of wide in the middle, in the center, and then the two ends or the two tips become narrow. So the best way to picture a crescent is to think of the moon, which takes on this shape sometimes when it is becoming full or receding from the full moon phase. So this building called the Royal Crescent is very impressive. It's very notable because it's long. It's made up of a row of houses that are altogether 150 meters long, and it's built in a crescent shape.
Indeed, and these days it boasts a luxury hotel where visitors can relax in thermal baths surrounded by gorgeous Georgian architecture. So yes, these days, or nowadays, it boasts various things. Here, boast as a verb just means it has this thing that it is very proud of. You might know people who boast about their income, or they boast about how many famous people they know. That means you say things that are really exaggerated, or they're bragging, basically. But in this particular case, it just means it features this hotel. I don't think the people there are really proud of it, like they think they're the best in the world or something, but still it is significant, so you can say it boasts this luxury hotel, which means it's not just a 2-star or a 3-star hotel, but it gets up to 5 stars.
Yes, I could also say the city of Rome boasts many museums and churches, which just means that the city of Rome has a lot of these things. And luxury is also often used with things like hotel, which we have used here, but also cars. You can have luxury cars, and when you talk about luxury cars, you're talking about Mercedes-Benzes and Jaguars and Porsches, for instance. And you have luxury handbags, which are name brand handbags like Louis Vuitton and
Hang Ten or Giordano. Are those luxury brands?
No, I wouldn't call those luxury brands. Those are more common brands, but you get the idea. Luxury brands are very, very expensive, and most people can't permit themselves to buy one.
Exactly. But indeed, if you can say you've stayed in this hotel, it is something that you can brag about. But while you're there, you can also relax in thermal baths surrounded by gorgeous Georgian architecture. If something's gorgeous, it's really beautiful, it's wonderful to look at. And architecture, of course, is a building style. Don't confuse this word with the actual structures themselves. Architecture is a general word for the architectural style of a certain place. Like, I love the architecture of Rome, for example, because they got lots of wonderful buildings there.
Yes, and here Georgian refers to the styles of architecture of the period between 1714 and 1830, not just in England, in the United Kingdom, and in other English-speaking places as well, but here we're talking about in the United Kingdom. And it's named after George I, who was the first of a series of British kings named George. So you have George I all the way through George IV.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. We're going to go on now to talk about some hot springs in Turkey.
No less stunning are the hot springs of Pamukkale in southwestern Turkey. Renowned for its cascading snow-white terraces of thermal pools, Pamukkale also has an artificially sculpted pool, which was supposedly a gift from the Roman general Mark Antony to the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. A temple once stood beside this pool, but an earthquake in the 7th century destroyed it, causing its marble columns to fall. Some of those columns remain in the pool to this day.
第三部分我们看到形容词 sculpted 指雕刻的。我们可以说 The cathedral's sculpted walls were breathtaking. 这座教堂的雕刻墙面美得令人屏息。或是 The sculpted wood is made by a well-known artist. 这个木头雕刻是出自一位知名的艺术家。另外这个字的名词 sculpture S-C-U-L-P-T-U-R-E sculpture 指的是雕刻品或是雕像。例如 The artist made a sculpture of the woman out of stone. 这位艺术家用石头制作那女子的雕像。或是 Edwin has a shelf that is lined with sculptures. Edwin 有个架子陈列着雕像。最后我们看到单字 supposedly. 这个字是副词，意思是据称、据说或是根据推测。例如 This movie is supposedly based on a true story. 这部电影据称是以真实故事为基础的。或是 This painting was supposedly inspired by the ocean. 这幅画据说是以海洋为灵感。
So we talked about Bath and its hot springs, and now we're going to move on to Turkey, which is also very famous for a bath that has an ancient bath. So it says here, no less stunning are the hot springs of Pamukkale in southwestern Turkey. So Pamukkale, which is the name of a group of hot springs in southwestern Turkey. And this group of hot springs are no less stunning. So no less stunning meaning compared to Bath, the hot springs in Bath, Pamukkale is no less stunning. It is just as stunning. So Pamukkale is located in southwestern Turkey and it's famous for many different things.
Okay, so if you got some time and some money, you could fly to Turkey and check out these hot springs there in southwestern Turkey. And renowned for its cascading snow-white terraces of thermal pools, Pamukkale also has an artificially sculpted pool, which was supposedly a gift from the Roman general Mark Antony to the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. So it's got some history there, and of course this means that the place is quite old. So yes, indeed, we're talking about the place here, Pamukkale. So it is renowned, it is famous for, it is known for its cascading snow-white terraces. Okay, if something's cascading, it's like a waterfall, but this actually implies that the waterfall has a lot of different levels. Okay, it's not one single drop like Niagara Falls or something like that. It actually falls in one place and falls again and falls again. So these are like terraces, which are like rice paddies here in Taiwan in the mountains, or where they grow tea. Those could be also described as terraces. And yes, they're just platforms going down one after the other. So yes, they're cascading down. The water isn't really there. It's underground, of course, but the color of these terraces are white. In fact, they are snow white, the white of snow.
That's right. And while these terraces are natural, they were created that way by nature, Pamukkale also has an artificially sculpted pool, which was supposedly a gift from the Roman general Mark Antony to the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. So within the complex of Pamukkale, there is also an artificially sculpted pool, which is a pool that was cut from a solid object. That's what sculpt means. To sculpt means to cut something, to cut a solid object such as wood or stone and to create a particular shape out of that. And artificially means it was done by a person or done by a machine and not done through the force of nature. So this particular pool was artificially sculpted and it was supposedly a gift. So supposedly here just means that some people say this is to be the case. We're not sure whether it was really a gift from the Roman general Mark Antony to Cleopatra, but as people say it was supposedly a gift from the Roman general to the Egyptian queen.
And, of course, Egypt is really not that far from Turkey, so, of course, Cleopatra could pop up to Turkey every now and then and have a bathe or take a bath in a hot spring there. And a temple once stood beside this pool, but an earthquake in the 7th century destroyed it. And that's kind of bad news, causing its marble columns to fall. So, of course, there was a temple there, but unfortunately, there was an earthquake in the 600s or the 7th century, and that earthquake destroyed the temple, so the temple is no longer standing, and the marble columns fell down. A column, of course, is something that supports a roof. Like, I think at Jingguashu, there are still some columns standing from an old Japanese temple.
That's right. And in fact, some of the marble columns from the temple are still there because some of the pieces of the column fell into the pool. So it says here, some of those columns remain in the pool to this day. And if you go there and you bathe in the artificially sculpted pool, you can still see the columns or pieces of them. And you can just admire them basically because they're quite beautiful.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始写到所有的州都可以找到温泉，他就写到说 And people have been bathing in them for millennia。 数千年来人们也都一直有在泡温泉。这边看到 millennium字尾如果是 um 的话，它是指1000年，而课文句子里面用到 millennia 则是它的复数形，所以他说 for millennia 就可以表达持续了数千年。好，那我们这边是要介绍现在完成进行式 have been 加上动词 ing， 这是表达说某个动作啊或者是状态从过去开始一直延续到现在还没有结束，强调仍然持续进行中，也就是一直在怎么样怎么样的意思哦。那它可以搭配 for 加一段时间，或者是搭配 since 加上过去某个时间点的名词或子句。我们来造两个例句。 Jenny has been reading the novel for hours。 Jenny 一直在看那本小说，她已经看了好几个小时，到现在都还在看。Jenny has been reading the novel since this morning. Jenny 从今天早上就一直在看那本小说，一样到现在都还在看。好，那我们也来复习一下。如果是现在完成式呢，它的形式是 have 加上过去分词 pp， 这个时态则是用来表达某个动作或者是状态到现在为止已经持续或存在了一段时间，那它可以搭配 for 加一段时间，或者是搭配 since 加上过去某个时间点的名词或子句。好，那我们造个例句。 Benny has changed a lot since I last saw him。 自从我上次见到他以后呢， Benny 他改变了很多。好，那我们接着读到课文第3部分的第一句，他说 No less stunning are the hot springs of Pamukkale in southwestern Turkey。 我们在前几课有介绍到地方副词移到句首的倒装句，而这个课文句子也是同样的道理，它是把主词补语移到句首，然后再把主词和动词进行倒装。所以如果我们现在把句子还原，就会写作 The hot springs of Pamukkale in southwestern Turkey are no less stunning。 土耳其西南部的棉堡温泉同样令人惊叹。好，注意句子里面的 no less 它是以双重否定来表达肯定。 no less 字面上的意思是没有比较少，那就是用来表达不亚于怎么样，同样是怎么样怎么样的。 no less stunning 就可以描述是同样令人惊叹的。 好，我们顺便补充相关的句型，你可以用 no less 加上形容词或副词 than 什么什么，引出比较的对象。好，那注意一下，当我们用 less 形容词或副词 than 什么什么，是表达劣于、少于什么、不如什么什么，你在前面加上 no 就可以表达出没有比较少，没有不如怎么样怎么样，所以其实就是用来表达和什么什么是一样怎么样的意思，也就是跟 as形容词 as 或者是 as 副词 as 点点点相同。例如 She is no less careful than her sister 她跟她姐姐一样细心，你也可以说 She is as careful as her sister。 好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Boast. This hotel boasts 2 large pools, a gym, and a golf course. Luxury.Lucas's father bought him a luxury watch for his birthday last year. Gorgeous. Naomi looked absolutely gorgeous in her new dress. Architecture. This building is an excellent example of classical architecture. Artificially. Diamonds are expensive because the supply is kept artificially low. Supposedly. Daisy has supposedly spent the last 5 months volunteering in
India.Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.